All right, welcome to another episode of the LogiCast. My name is BlankaKong, joined by Gunner Eos.
Hello.
Today's going to be a two-man show. Fortunately, Esoteric could not make it, Zeta couldn't make it, and Wolf couldn't make it, but that's okay. We have an interesting topic. It's a little similar to some past topics that we've done before, but has a bit of a twist, and we have some additional data to go over. So today's topic is going to be about. It's an article from Game World Observer. Um, According to Matthew Karch, you can make great games at a price that isn't going to kill somebody's bank account. I agree. And he does cite
hmm
some examples like Helldivers and Power World. Power World launching at like $30 and Helldivers being a $40 game. Both of those games have seen extreme success, being AA games. One being in early access even, and they also talk about like how they want to use Space Marine. They think Space Marine 40,000, Space Marine 2, Warhammer 40,000 can be a game that doesn't have to necessarily launch at $70, which is great to hear. So let's see. So Matthew Karch is the head of Saber Interactive, which is the head developer for Space Marine 2. He did an interview with Game Industry Biz. He said that doesn't like $70 games because that's expensive and publishers don't have to sell products for that much, which I agree with. And he did cite Helldivers 2 and Power World as examples of, hey, we can spend less and make more if we just focus on the gameplay. I know it's like crazy. But anyway, that's going to be the general topic. We're also going to talk, they cite Halo as like a game franchise at some point that also did it as well. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the new Star Wars game that Ubisoft is pushing out as an example of like a company that has the opposite belief where they will charge you as much as possible for every piece of content that they can get away with. So, yeah, that's the topic. What are your thoughts on that, Gunnar?
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it for a hot minute here on the podcast and in general that these games just aren't $70. A lot of them do not justify the $70 price tag. And it's odd which Mr. Karch here says the same thing. Like even digital games are $70, which he mentions he would love to sell Space Marine 2 if it was digital at less than $70 because, the reason physical games tend to be more expensive is because there's advertisements, there's the physical media process, as in the disc, the case, the cover art, and then there's the cut that you have to send to your distributors and your resellers, like your GameStops and your Walmarts and Targets and Best Buys and so on and so forth. Digital, in theory, should have lowered the price of video games because now the only potential deal you're striking is with Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, the big three. That's it. Paying them a cut to host their games on the PlayStation Network, the Xbox Marketplace, and the Nintendo Store. That's it. So why are we still paying $70, even if it's digital, and where we're seeing more and more of this hardcore push to digital games? The price of digital games being $70 doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't take an economics degree to kind of see why, because they want $70. They could probably charge the 60, 65 for a game in 2024, but we can also charge you 70, 75, and if we give you no other option but to buy the game at 75, we'd rather make the 75 off of you than the 60. So, I mean, that's the pretty much that's the simple reason. But I like that somebody with some type of voice of authority in the video game industry is kind of saying it now. I think we're starting to see that shift where um, you can't really ignore the decline of these huge, super crazy, big budget, triple, quad A, whatever you want to call them, games now that you have some pretty notable failures. Forspoken, Babylon's Fall, Suicide Squad, Marvel's Avengers. Like these are big titles that cost a lot of money to
Yeah.
produce, and they've, if you want to look at metrics, right, taking emotion and fanboyism aside, they commercially failed as a viable product. So like I think he also mentions he mentioned some big boys like I know what I'm doing. If I could just
So as you're looking for that, like I wanted to point out, so he did kind of walk it back a little bit. So he goes, speaking of Saber's, well, this isn't the direct quote, I'm about to quote it. Speaking of Saber's upcoming ambitious game, Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2, Arch said that he would love to sell that, at least the digital edition, for less than $70 because there's a typo here. He put we can, but we can. And I think we should. However, the title will still likely cost that much considering the amount of resources the studio put into it. So, he says that, but realizes, well, hey, depending on the cost of the game, you might have to, and the anticipated amount of units sold, we might have to actually charge full price for it. And then he also mentions that, like, where the game is developed can have a big reason as to why it's expensive and why they have like 15 studios across the world, one including in Siberia, where the cost structure is several times lower than, say, California, which makes sense because cost of living is higher there, and so the wages have to meet that cost of living. And then with like places like Cali or major like North American cities, those territories tend to have like a need for, seemingly air quotes, a need for like an HR department and all these other things that you might not need if you have like a small studio in like Brazil or something like that, or in Siberia or in some certain parts of Europe, like where like maybe the culture is a little less volatile and you don't, and things, people just kind of know their place and people just kind of go in and do their job or whatever. So that's a good point. That's a good thing to point out. We're gonna probably see more games developed by like kind of random places around the world that are probably gonna hit really well, like with the market and sell at a low cost because it costs less to develop the game. And that's probably because people developing the game probably have like a high passion for the project, and once you add human passion to anything, like that's when you see true art flourish. And
yes, that's when. Yeah.
So and a lot of companies, at least in North America and major parts of Europe and parts of Japan, maybe to a lesser degree Japan. I think Japan still has a stranglehold on video game development as far as like quality is concerned. But more, I'm going to just speak to North America because that's where I live. These companies are all about like the top priority is like growth, business growth. Okay, well, how did the game do last year? Okay, well, we got to beat that number. Not looking at the market, not considering like, okay, well, is this getting stale? No. We have to make the line go up, no matter what. It's all about profitability. Right. And there's a point of like plateauing that like most companies hit. That I mean, personally, and I'm not like a millionaire businessman or anything like that, so maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but it's like you got to be able to recognize like when your product is like hit its peak. Everything has a peak, and once you hit a peak, there's only one way to go, and that's down, right? So like if you could hit a peak and kind of maintain a certain level of stability of profitability, then okay, maybe you got to make cuts here and there to sustain a company. But I don't know, we did a podcast a few weeks ago about the layoffs in 2024 and how like companies are just chopping departments down, which we kind of predicted on another podcast we did months ago, where it was like there's too much game bloat.
Embracer Group recently has been selling off a bunch of studios. Like Gearbox has been scooped up by I forgot, was it Take-Two? I think it was Take-Two.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to take your word.
Yeah,
for
if
it.
anybody knows in the comments, you could correct me. But I know they sold Gearbox. They've sold a bunch of other studios. Some studios have bought their property rights back from these guys. So like even these big super game conglomerates are starting to trim the fat.
Yeah, we see it with Microsoft. We see it with Ubisoft. These companies are chopping their headcount down because it's like, well, fuck, we didn't make as much money as we thought we would. Maybe we over invested into certain projects and we didn't get the return that we thought we would get based off of whatever metric that they were following. Studios have been closing down entirely. Whatever, I forget the name of the studio, but studio behind Forspoken, they shut down a few months after the game's launch. Suicide Squad's another one. Like, Rocksteady, not looking good. Like, that whole studio might go bye-bye if it hasn't already.
Yeah.
And
their new DLC did not hit. Like, I don't know who was thinking it would. I guess the investors. The new DLC didn't hit like the investors thought. There was a slight bump for people, I guess, who had sunk cost fallacy and was like, well, I paid for the season pass, might as well see what Joker's about. But it didn't revive the game like some diehards were kind of saying that it would.
I don't know. And we were making fun of Ubisoft games because that's like the meme, right? Where like a Ubisoft game will come out and then 3 weeks later it's on sale, like 40% off. That's because it happens all the time. In fact, of the recording of this video, like, I got an email from like GameStop. It's like, oh, select games up to 50% off. I'm like, oh, that's sick. Okay, let me check. And I click the link to see because so they'll surprise you with some good sales. There'll be some like decent titles that are like, $20 off or whatever. It's like, well, maybe I'll see something.
Yeah, that's the same reason I clicked on it.
And then what's funny is like the advertiser had like NHL and like Star Wars, Jedi Survivor,
Fallen Order.
It was a newer one.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, so it might be like a diverse mixed bag of like different games.
That's what
Clicked
I thought.
on it, brother. It was every Ubisoft game that came out over the last like 4 months. Everything: Skull and Bones, Assassin's Creed, Egyptian Man. What's it called? Mirage. Freaking Prince of Persia: Lost Crown. Every other version, Avatar, every other version of like Skull and Bones, the Gold Edition, the Silver Edition, the Platinum Edition, the Coal Edition. It's like, oh my god, like, whatever. Like,
yeah, I was like, what a waste. Ew, what a waste of time. And I gotta, maybe I'll get Star Wars now, but that's all I personally got.
I mean, I looked at the Prince of Persia game. I was like, I could get, but that was like $30. It's kind of like, that still feels like too much. Like, I'm sorry, and I know it's a good game.
I need you to shave,
but like.
Yeah,
I think I'm okay. Like, I still got Dragon's Dogma 2. I got Stellar Blade on the horizon. I think I'm fine. So
yeah, trust me, it will go on sale, and it probably will go on sale for less.
Yeah, I expect to buy. I'm gonna pick up Prince of Persia at some point for like $15. I'm confident that I'll be able to do that, and then $15 feels like this feels right. Which is unfortunate because I know it's a good game. And they've done things to that game that I don't necessarily agree with, as far as from a design standpoint. I would have rather play with the Prince. Instead, you're playing with like his like protector warrior guy, and I'm just like, okay, whatever though. Okay, that's what they're going with. The game still looks like a competent game, but anyway, I feel bad because I know there's a lot of like the people behind the game probably put a lot of work into it and a lot of sleepless nights, and it sucks that those people are going to be blamed for the game's lack of success because those are the first people that they're going to fucking fire and terminate and cut down. It's not going to be, it's not going to be any executive level people taking a pay cut. Sorry. Bob still needs his yacht. Like, he still needs his fucking Ferrari, so anyway.
Yeah. So, I found those games. It was in the same article, or same section of the article, that he talked about Helldivers and Power World. How he says that we used to look up to juggernauts like Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft, Call of Duty, Ubisoft, and Battlefield, which is EA. So we had 2 UBs out of 3. As like, what was the exact? So, we used to look up to juggernauts such as Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, and Battlefield as like industry titans, like what to shoot for.
Yeah.
This is your metric of success, and now we're seeing games like Helldivers, Power World. There's a new game that came out. What is it? It's kind of like Oh my goodness. Uh, Logical was playing it on a stream not too long ago.
Lethal Company.
Lethal Company. It's in that same vein. I just the name escapes me right now. But that game has taken off, and that game is doing incredibly well. These are like low budget, PC
One
games that
guy
don't
made Lethal
require
Company. It was a one-person team.
right, yeah. And like these things don't require beasts of machines, or they can easily be brought over to consoles if they feel like it. And like you know, I think the day of Call of Duty, and Battlefield and games of that ilk and Assassin's Creed and these Last of Us big budget Hollywood style video games, like those are gone. Like those are out the door. Like it's now we're returning to an age of Power World like games, Helldiver like games, Lethal Company, like smaller scale games that are shockingly, I know, fun to play and are just where they're not shooting for the 4K graphics, the let's hire 1 million Hollywood actors to voice act a character you see for 5 minutes in the game. Like, we don't necessarily need mocap and body scans and all that stuff. Like, we're returning to that, and I think at least some people in the industry they're noticing that, they're seeing that. In the case of Space Marine 2, I don't think Games Workshop was going to let him and his team sell that game for anything less than 70, because Game Workshop is like, nah, this is the 40K universe. This is, Space Marine. $70, please. Thank you very much.
Well, the game has been pushed back by like a year and a half. So I mean, I'm pretty sure they're probably going over budget. They got to make up that. They got to make up that difference somehow, and so, they got to charge full price for the game.
That's also a good point. Yeah, which he doesn't mention in the article, but I'd bet money that has an influence on why the game stays 70, even though his personal opinion is that he would love to charge 60 or below, or less than 70 at least for a digital version of the game. That's a good point.
Yeah, but like that's like the business side of me thinking like, okay, well, what would justify an increase in price? And it's like, well, I knew this game was supposed to come out last year in like October or something like that, or September or August, somewhere around there, and like it didn't.
Yeah, there was one date that was August. You were right. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, like, it was something like.
I think it was supposed to be November of last year that it was.
Yeah, like that was like the last date, and we were like, okay, but then like it's not pre-orderable anywhere. There's no fucking. Yeah. There's no advertisement for it. I'm like, okay, it's gonna get pushed again, and it did, and hopefully, and like I'm always, and we say it all the time, like if a game is being pushed back, like they're gonna still need development time on it. I'm usually okay with that because that just means, okay, well, the game is going to be more polished. We're going to get a better game at the end of the day. But from a business standpoint, from an investor standpoint, hey, listen, we thought the game was going to be out 6 months ago. It's not. We're still paying you. We're going over budget by 10% or whatever. Like, okay, like how, what's our projected sales now? Like, tell me a bigger number because it can't be the same number from before, right? And so that's the business side, and that's the balancing act that they have to do between publisher and developer. The game, it costs money to make these games, and the people who are paying for this shit, they want to see a return on their investment, not breaking even, because breaking even is not successful.
It's pretty much a failure.
It's a failure as far as that. It was a waste of time. They could have invested into something else. So I get that. Me being older, I understand that. But younger me probably would have been like, breaking even's fine. And it's like, it's not. It's not fine.
It's not. You're not in the red, but you're not in the black.
It's nothing
either.
To celebrate per se. Mention that, and then here is another quote from him. This is Mr. Karch. I can tell you that 100% with 100% certainty that our budget for Master Chief Collection was certainly 1/12 of Halo Infinite, but probably more like 1/13, 1/40. And I would imagine they're equally successful. Now he's assuming that both games are successful, and I guess he worked on the Master Chief Collection, which, to be fair, that was a reboot, or not even a reboot. It was like a remastering of the original games. Yeah. Which making a game from scratch is one thing, and then taking something and just making it a little better is another thing. Like, it's still development, it's still time, it's still But
Yeah.
like
But I imagine the natural budget would be less for
for a remaster remake.
remake or
Yeah,
remaster as opposed to a full-on reboot or new
yeah,
IP.
100%. So I would expect it to be a lot less, but to say that both games probably met the same success says a lot, right? And so I was like, okay, well, let me look up some sales data. So I'll just kind of start from the beginning. So, and this is what I found online. Some of this information might not be 100%, but this is what I was able to find. It's hard to find sales data for games that maybe weren't super successful.
Yeah,
They tend to not want
to
to disclose that information.
those.
So, but anyway, the original Halo game, the first one, 6 million units sold. Halo 2 was 8 million. Halo 3 was 10 million. Halo Wars was 2 million, which was the RTS. I can understand why that didn't do so well, or well compared to the others. Halo 3 ODST, 5 million. Halo Reach, 7 million. And then the first Halo game was remastered for 360 in 2011. That did 1.5 million. Now, he mentions Master Chief Halo Collection. According to VGCharts.com, and I'll link all this stuff in the description, so in case you want to see it, you can look at the data yourself. According to this website, Halo Master Chief Collection for the Xbox One did 3.44 million. So if this game did that, we look at Halo Infinite on the same website, sales history is blank.
Ooh.
When you see no sales history, when it's not advertised at all, it's usually bad. So Halo Infinite costs more to make. According to Mr. Karch, costs anywhere from 12 to 30 to 40 times more to make, but probably didn't even hit that $3 million unit mark. Maybe it did, but like if you paid 40 times more and you only sold 3 million, it's like that's a total loss. Like it's
Yeah.
So even if they did hit that, even if they succeeded that, like this game should have sold 10 million plus, considering the budget. And that's what he's talking about. That's what he's referring to. It's like, do you need to spend this much to make a good game? And I don't think so. I think had they focused on what they wanted this Halo Infinite game to be, and had they had the right people in place, because that's a game that had like I think 3 different directors. Once you start like playing musical chairs with directors and like producers and stuff, and the direction of the game is starting to be like, like when people change, when the heads of any company or any like team changes, the direction changes, and sometimes that's a death wish. Like, let's say Bob was the first, team leader, team director or whatever, and he had a vision for the game, and then he got fired or he left. Now it's Tom. And Tom is like, no, we're going to scrap all this that Bob had, and we're going to refocus, right? And then Tom doesn't work out. And then we get Jeff, and then Jeff is like, I like both ideas that Tom and Bob had, but I want to add this to, like, it becomes a clusterfuck. And then you don't know what's, like the game loses its own identity. We saw that happen with Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights was supposed to be a lot like Marvel's Avengers, where it was supposed to be like heavy games as a service style game. They saw the failure of Marvel's Avengers, and they tried to pivot and make more of like, let's try to make this more single player healthy,
right?
But that wasn't the intent of the original design. So the game is going to lose its identity, and it's going to be a worse game more often than not. So
same with Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
If they had their way, Suicide Squad was meant to be a very different game. If you think its iteration now is money hungry, hollow, and shallow gameplay, it was supposed to be a lot worse. Like I think they delayed this game a whole year out of its 9-year development cycle, which equaled out to 10 years, to like just do as hard a reset as they could. But like you said, like the DNA of the game, the bones of the game was already established, and they could only change so much without completely scrapping the game. So I think they tried to remove the most egregious parts, or maybe the most immediately visible egregious parts, and maybe like, well, if we made it kind of a light service game, maybe people will gravitate to it. It's got Batman, but even then it didn't. It bombed.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what the original game, what it would have looked like.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's gross. Like I can only imagine how gross
Mm,
it is. And to wrap up the Halo example, and I'm going to tie it back to Ubisoft and then this article here. Halo 2 was developed in 8 months, and it was like extreme crunch. People got sick. People, it was like a shitty work environment. It was really bad, but they pumped out Halo 2 in 8 months, and it's one of the top selling Halo games in franchise history. 8 million units sold, according to this chart. So, but then you look at Skull and Bones. That game took 10 years to develop because it was developed off the back of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and that
yeah.
game wishes it sold 8 million copies. So it's like, so I can only imagine the budget for that game. It's like you can make a good. And I'm not saying crunch is a good thing. It's not, but like there is there needs to be focus. Deadlines need to exist, right? But you need to put the right people in place, and you can't have too many like bullshit departments. Like that's what we need. We need to stop with the bullshit departments. That like you don't need 6 HR departments. Like what are we talking about?
Yeah, you don't need to hire any consulting firms.
Yeah, we don't need the Sweet Baby Inks, bro. Like,
Make a
we're
game.
okay. Like
Yeah.
I think we'll be fine. Like just have your writing team and trust in your writers. But whatever, it's just a different time. We're just trying. The problem is like the gaming industry is like trying to like have all like we want everybody to play video games, and we want this to be a hobby that everybody can engage in. It's like I get that, but like it's let's be real. Like it's not gonna like there's some people who just this is a hobby that's not meant for them. Like I'm sorry. Like it is what it is, dog. Like if not every game can appease like you just can't have it. That's why we have multiple genres. That's why we have hundreds, thousands of games coming out a year. That's why we have different tiers of games. We have like indie games, AA games, AAA games, mobile games. Like there's something for everybody, I believe, but everybody wants to have like a AAA, air quotes, AAA or quadruple A experience. And it's like
Yeah.
that's kind of impossible.
It's all about the money.
It's kind of impossible.
Yeah. Oh no, it's
like
it's wholly
even if you can get a game that's like loved across the board. Like I think God of War 2018 is probably a game that's like loved across the board. I haven't met a person who said, that game was kind of bad. I haven't met like them. They might be out there, but like most people who played it enjoyed it for what it was. I played it. I didn't finish it, but I liked it. I was like, oh, this is cool. I could get behind this, right? And that game met extreme success. But then with Ragnarok, which was also successful, they started doing that whole like, oh, let's be a little more inclusive and let's blah, 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 and then they kind of like minimized the first game. The first game being 2018. And it's like, see, you guys flew too close to the sun. Like, you had something, you should have just stuck to it, and should have just instead you want to make this whole like Kratos needs to be more vulnerable. It's like, oh my god, like what are you fucking up? Okay, sure. And don't get me wrong, like I don't think Ragnarok was a bad game, but like I feel like if it had been closer to the 2018 version, it probably would have been way better. I think, but that's just me though. That's just me.
I personally would have probably played it.
That's just me. I didn't play Ragnarok. I just watched Esoteric play it on stream, and the game looked like a competent game, but it was less impactful. In my opinion, the story was like I get it, but like now these characters are all buddy buddy. It's like I don't know how I feel about that. The whole like this is more of a gameplay mechanic thing. The whole like the enemy attacks you and like he will glow a different color depending on like what you need to respond with was like that's kind of lame. Okay, whatever. Okay, sure, whatever. We want a more casual audience. You got it. Fine. I won't play it. No problem.
Yeah. I mean, no, you're right. It's a reason why Final Fantasy 16 and 7 Rebirth are action games now because they wanted more people to play Final Fantasy, but it's just like, oh, these turn-based games, they're boring, they're hard, I don't like them, they're slow. So what's in my opinion, what's an easier genre to kind of just like turn your brain off and play is an action game. I mean, I love DMC, but I'm not going to sit here and say DMC is some complex, thought-provoking strategic game. Not.
DMC is a difficult game that requires, if depending on the mode you're playing, it requires like extreme game knowledge and fighting game, pro level fighting game execution. But like, it's not. I wouldn't say it's strategic. I don't think there's a lot of strategy. Having good execution and having good strategy are two different things. So they're two different kinds of games. And it's funny you say that because there's another article in Game World Observer that I was looking at, and I guess I'll link it too. Apparently, the Stellar Blade demo, it's 690k daily active players, almost double that of Final Fantasy Rebirth.
Oh,
and that's a hack and slash game.
Wow.
But it's a hack and slash game that was meant to be a hack and slash game. So like from its inception to its soon to release, it's true to itself. So it's like every design decision that was put into the game was intentional. It was meant to be there. And it's meant to amplify that kind of experience.
That's crazy.
Demo, like, by the way. Like that's
that you have to restart the demo if you want to do like the adventure portion again. And it has I can't even call it a boss.
It has like an additional boss that you can fight. That's all.
Right, and
that's it.
The fact that it has that many continuous players,
because it's
pretty freaking nuts.
Fun. The game is fun. It's smooth. It looks good. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like that's what we want. That's what's gonna do well. Just polished, fun games. Some of the most successful games in history are like not exactly polished. Roblox, Minecraft. These games are great for what they are, but like they're not Last of Us 2 level graphics.
No, no 4K.
Because they don't have to.
You know,
like who gives a fuck?
Yeah,
I'm gonna play my little block band and I'm gonna go build me a house. Like I don't know what to tell you. Just to wrap up this article here, Saber Interactive already has several successful games in its portfolio. For example, 2019 hit World War Z returned 15 times its cost, around $12 million.
That surprised me.
That doesn't surprise me. Because World War Z was awesome.
I mean, yeah, we had fun with it, but I didn't know it was as big as it was. I only recently got reminded of it because I think it recently got like an expansion or some type of DLC, not a direct sequel, but it got new content.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh,
yeah, it got
its
Aftermath content a few years ago, and like it got a re-release and everything. Like I got the Aftermath edition. You know, the content is on the disc. It's not something I have to download or access via the internet, which is nice. You know, physical media. Make sure all the content's on the disc. Yeah. Thank you. 15 times its cost. That's huge.
I remember when we played, I had a lot of fun with that game. It was just fun shooting zombies with the homies.
That was it. Like it felt like kind of like, you know, Left 4 Dead, like a slower version of Left 4 Dead, a more methodical, like, you know, you got maybe you gotta sneak around a little bit and be a little more like conservative with your ammunition, stuff like that. Like the game was cool. There was like a skill tree in it, and each character had like, you know, different like loadouts that you can experiment with. It was like, this is cool. And like, you know, not for nothing, the zombie games, we'll just put that in one bucket. That's a pretty profitable and like pretty accessible genre of like game. Like zombie shooters, zombie first person shooters, third person shooters, whatever. Like that zombie genre, the zombie motif is attractive. A lot of people understand it. A lot of people are familiar with it. And if you could easily make a good fun game around just that motif, that enemy type, and just be like, okay, well, how much fun can we make it? How much different can we make it? Let's have different kinds of zombies. What kind of players do we want to have? Like, what kind of characters do we want to have? What kind of weapons do we want to have? What do we want this to feel like? Do we want it to feel like, you know, The Living Dead, where you're like trapped and you have like barely anything? Do you want it to feel like Dawn of the Dead 2004 Dawn of the Dead, where you're just mowing motherfuckers down? Like, what kind of experience do we want? Okay, and once you figure that out, you could build a really like interesting game just off of that, and you have so much source material, right? So it doesn't surprise me that World War Z did so well. And then he mentioned SnowRunner performed even better, which is like, that blew me away. SnowRunner, it's a simulation game where you're just in a fucking snowplow machine plowing fucking snow and like you're racing and shit. It's like, what? Like I've seen this game. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. But like how did that outperform World War Z? Probably because it's just fun. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And so cool, like good for people who like SnowRunner, and they're probably going to get another one. That's crazy to me. And right now, the company is working on several other projects, including a remake for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which I don't hear good things about. We'll see. John Carpenter's Toxic Commando, which I've never heard of, but you were saying that there was like a movie, and after further research,
movie and some old SNES and NES games.
Apparently, there's like a new comic book coming out for us. So I guess they're trying to revive it. And then Space Marine 2, which they're considering an elite category game, which it might, off the heels of like Stellar Blade. This is coming out a few months later. A lot of Stellar Blade people might go, that Space Marine game looks kind of fun. It looks like a lot like Stellar Blade.
Yeah.
And so you might see.
Yeah, I'm hoping for the best, man. I'm trying not to let my bias get in the way.
Well, I'm thinking of it from like a business standpoint, where it's like, I think them launching a few months after something like Stellar Blade is probably smart.
Oh, I wouldn't. If I was a game company right now, I would purposely delay my game out of April. Like, I would not fuck with at least late April.
Yeah.
Early April, sure. I would not fuck with anything near the 26th. No.
Yeah, because
don't do it.
Yeah, that game is going to do really well. But like, once people get like a taste of like a certain game genre and it does well, like they're going to be more open to that genre if they weren't before. So that's what I'm saying. Like, Space Marine 2 might see more success because of Stellar Blade being so close together. It's like, like Resident Evil 4 remake and Dead Space remake were just a few months apart. And I remember people, like, they would buy Dead Space 2 or Dead Space 1 remake, and they're like, yo, this is so good. Like, I remember how good horror games used to be. And then, boom, Resident Evil 4 remake is just a few months after that. I go, give me some more of that horror shit.
Yeah.
So, like, I could see the same happening for Space Marine 2. I could be wrong. I don't know. The game might suck. Who's to say? We don't know. There's no demo or anything yet. And there's barely any gameplay footage. So we're still in the dark as far as that game is concerned. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like I rambled there a bit. So apologies for that.
No. That was...
I hope it was like...
That was good. I enjoyed it.
Hopefully it was helpful or made sense. But do you have any other thoughts about this article before we talk about Star Wars Outlaws?
No, I mean, I guess I'll reiterate a point that I said earlier in the video. I'm just like, I think we're finally seeing, as Zeta says, I don't know about the burn coming, but I think we are seeing a shift in mentality, at least with some level of the game industry. I think the folks over at Ubisoft and Square Enix and EA, like those big, like Olympian God style game developers, are still like, no, Last of Us 2, we can make 5 of those, one every year. We could still do it. People still want it. I don't know. Those guys might be a little bit lost of a cause, but at least like mid-tier developers and indie developers, I think they're seeing the writing on the wall, and they're seeing a world where they don't have to spend the GDP of some countries to make a video game and to make a successful video game. So I just like that. I like that it seems like the mentality on some level anyway is changing, and hopefully that equates to better games, more reasonably priced games, and returning to an age where you had like a whole plethora of video games and you're like, yeah, that's good, that's a banger, that's great, I love that game, instead of just like, yeah, there's like 1 or 2 games every year that I really like and the rest is just forgettable or mid.
Yeah, and before we move on to, because we're about to start talking pricing again, like, I don't want to, maybe we did come off this way, I'm not sure. Depends on how people perceive it, but like the $70 price point does bother me. But it's not that I can't afford it. No, it's not necessarily that it's that I'm being priced out of the market, because that's how I feel about certain retro games. Like, retro market is like, I feel like it's a little, depending on what you're looking at, I'm like, bro, like $400 for a PS2 game, like, you could kiss my ass, right? Like, that's crazy. But
in a world with emulation, it's just like, come on,
I'm good. But like, it hasn't reached that point yet. but it's getting there, right? And if we allow it to get there, it'll get there, right? It'll get to the point where base game $120, which is like madness.
At that point,
I'm thinking about it.
I tip my hat to you, game industry. I'm gonna
Yeah, at that point it's like, all right, this hobby's no longer makes sense. Like now I have to like wait like 2 years after the game came out to play it, which isn't a bad thing, but
with how half these games turn out at launch,
that's another point I was going to bring up. Like the $70 price point is one thing. Okay, that's more. All right, cool. I can live with that because it does cost a lot to make these games. Granted, and inflation has affected pretty much everything else. I'm like, okay, I get it. But like I feel like we're getting less, and we're paying more, and that's the problem.
Oh yeah,
that's the crux of the problem. And with that being said, let's end this podcast with Star Wars Outlaws.
These psychopaths over here.
So this game hasn't come out yet. It's available for pre-order. It's set to release in August. Just maybe a few weeks before Space Marine. Oh, if I'm gonna get something, I'm gonna get Space Marine too. But anyway, there's the base version of the game, which is $70, and then there's the gold edition of the game, which is $110. No, 100.
That jump.
Wait, let me see. No, it's $110. And with the gold edition, you get basically the season pass content. So you get upcoming 2 story pack DLCs, which is future content, and then you get a day 1 exclusive piece of content that you don't get if you don't get the gold edition, plus like a skin or whatever. It's like, so you purposely cut content out of the game to justify this season pass. Okay. Then there's the Ultimate Edition, which is only available digitally, and you get everything that I mentioned before, plus more skins, plus a digital art book, and you get to play the game 3 days early, which means technically you could launch the game 3 days earlier, right? Like the game is ready to go, but you will purposely push back the date in order to create this like incentivization that really shouldn't have existed.
Yeah.
Like it's like, all right, if the game is ready to go, just launch the game. But like, no, we can sell the idea of having early access to the game. Let's make that an incentive and charge people $20 more for that. That's
which is becoming more of a thing.
Which that's not a new thing. A lot of games have been doing it for years now. But it's always been a disgusting practice. I'm like, yo, fuck you, bro. Like, get out of here. Like, I don't know. It just feels like you're price gouging your own market, like your own community. Like you're just taking them for a ride. And it's like, I understand the game needs to make money, and I understand that Ubisoft probably had to pay a lot of money for the license to use Star Wars, and so the natural development cost for this game is probably a lot higher than their own IPs. I understand that, but it just, from an optics standpoint, it just makes me feel like I'm being attacked as a consumer. And so that just turns me away, and I just don't buy the game. Right? Which is why the Ubisoft meme of, like, these games go on sale after 3 weeks is a thing, because it's like, well, because people aren't going to fucking flood the market to buy your shit, because we already learned from Watch Dogs, from Division 1, from past Assassin's Creed games, that you're going to fuck us. You're going to give us low-tier content, you're going to charge us top dollar, and then you're going to drag your feet to fix anything or to give us more content. So it's like, why the fuck would I buy your game day one? Like, I would never buy Ubisoft game. Ever. It's done.
No.
But, So what are your thoughts on that response to all that?
I mean, there's a lot wrong with this game. It's not even out yet. Like, there's the whole thing about the character, which see our Stellar Blade video for more on that. I'm not even worried about that. That's like on the totem pole of why I would never buy this game. The fact that the main protagonist looks vastly different from the actress that they used. I'm not even worried about that. The price is what really got me. The fact that the most expensive version of the game, that Ubisoft has the unmitigated gall to ask $130 from people from content that was more than likely developed alongside the main game and then cut out of it to be sold back to you as DLC. skins that should just be in the game and earnable within the game, and a digital art book that means nothing. And then, to me, the most egregious one, which obviously is not mentioned in the pricing, is that the physical version of this game doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. If you go to GameStop on August 20th, August 30th, and buy this game physically, whether it's the standard or gold edition, you are not getting the full game. Because it says right on the box, which thank God they legally have to post that information, or they wouldn't. That this game needs an internet connection to install the rest of the game. So, to me, that was the most egregious thing.
I agree.
I never want to own this game in any capacity, whether it's $2 or $20. No. So but this is just Ubisoft being retarded. This is just retarded ass Ubisoft behavior, and I'm sorry, person that may hear this. If you're still buying a Ubisoft game in 2024 at full price day one, you need to have some self-reflection, because what are you doing? Stop. Get some help.
Stop it.
So
get some help.
That's my thought on this thing. This thing is a fucking clusterfuck.
So I pulled up the comparison between the main character model and the physical model that they modeled her after, air quotes. And wow, what a fucking difference!
Right?
Jesus,
they gave her a butt chin and everything.
Like the girl, Umberly Gonzalez, an actress from Venezuela, gorgeous woman. Holy shit, what a doll. And then you look at the main character of the game, it's just like, because I didn't know this before you mentioned it. I looked at the main character, I was like, she's fine. Like, whatever. Like, not the first pick of the draft here, but like, that's fine. Like, I don't, it doesn't bother me. And here's the thing, like, female characters or characters in general don't have to be like absolute top as far as like looks and physique is concerned. You can have more normalized characters. I'm not against that, but I don't know, dog. Like when you purposely pay, like this woman was paid probably very well to make an appearance in the game, air quotes appearance in the game, and then you don't use her likeness. I feel like what are we doing here? Like if this was your plan, then don't pay the actress anything. And just make an ugly character. Like you're able to do that. Like what are we talking about?
I've heard arguments like, can these actors and actresses? Well, I say actors, but it's usually actresses, because a YouTube video that I watched, which was about this subject, showed the main character from Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order. He's a male, obviously. He looks exactly like he does in the video game. It's 1-to-1. Like, so clearly this is done one way. And it's just like, yeah, I've heard arguments like, can they file for defamation? Like, can they file, like this is fraud. Like, this is actual fraud.
Yeah, like I just looked up, you heard me typing away. Like I just looked up the actress, the model that they used for Resident Evil 3 Remake, which, listen, I hate what they did to the Resident Evil 3 Remake. Like, it's not a terrible game.
That game was rough,
but like, it could have been so much better, right? But one of the things that they did do well was Jill. I thought Jill looks awesome. I thought her costume change, while some people were complaining about it, I thought it was an improvement. I think it made sense for her.
Yeah. I
was like, I'm fine with it. Like, I'd rather the skirt, sure, but that's like more of a, male gaze reason as to why I wanted that. But like, from an objective, like, what makes the most sense for her, for Jill as a character, the jeans with the tank top or whatever, and the combat gear around her waist. Like, I was like, nah, this makes sense. This is what Jill would rock in a situation like this. This makes total sense. And then, but anyway, moving away from that, looking at the model, the actual physical model that they use to create Jill's likeness, it's really fucking close. Like, it's like almost 1-to-1. And it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Why else would you pay a model hundreds of thousands of dollars to use her likeness and then not use it? Like, what?
And then, like, yeah, purposely, in my opinion, purposely deform the model to look like something else. Like,
What?
why did you
Like they did
bother?
the same thing with The Last of Us. Like Ellie's girlfriend, like Dina.
Oh yes,
The,
yeah,
the
yeah,
actress for that
yeah. I've seen that one.
character was, I mean, it's fucking gorgeous. And like then you look at the character model and it's like, not bad. But then you compare it and it's like, whoa, like okay, Big Bird, like that nose is kind of like,
Yeah,
damn, dog, like what
where'd they
happened?
get the schnoz from?
You know, so I don't know. Like, and I know this topic is more about like games and you know they don't need to be that expensive to develop and game development bloat and all that. But like, this is a part of the bloat, right? Paying all
Yeah,
this money
yeah.
to these actresses, which I'm not against per se, but then to not use their likeness is madness to me. I'm like, so we're just burning money. Like if I was heading some of these projects, I'm like, why does the model look this way? It's like, oh well, you know, we know we're supposed to, you know, model after Ms. Gonzalez, but you know, we don't want players to feel, you know, oppressed by the model. Like, what the fuck are you? Like, we just paid this woman $500,000.
Then how much did we pay
Like,
her? Yeah.
we're using her like this. Like, I don't give a fuck, right? Like that would be me, right? I don't care if, you know, Karen, the fucking one of the writers is like feels intimidated by this girl's beauty. Like she's got to get over that shit. We got a deadline to hit and we got money to make. All right, so you got to remove the butt chin and like spruce it up, like redo that shit. But you know, whatever. Bruh. I'm just a sexist bigot. Sure, okay.
Yep. And then and then Ubisoft comes to you with this and says $130.
Yeah, you like the skins? Give us some. Give us more money. It's like,
You're like, she gets a Han Solo skin. You know Han Solo, right? From the movies? You
yeah,
remember?
you remember?
I know
You
you remember.
It's like fuck you.
Yeah. It's like, fuck out of here. You know, again, like I said, for me, the clincher was this game does not exist physically. It does. There is a disc. There is a Blu-ray disc you could hold, but it's not real. It's fake.
Yeah,
it's just an installation.
It's an installation key. Same thing happened with the Call of Duty games. Like they're I think since
Surprise, surprise! Another Ubisoft game.
well, no, Call of Duty's Activision, right?
Oh, Activision. Right.
I mean,
yeah.
tomato, right? Both are.
I mean, yeah. Another one of their ilk, I
Yeah.
should say. There you go.
This has been going on since like Call of Duty World War II. Like that was one of the first games where it was just like, nope, you need internet connection to use this game, like for the first time. And I remember working at GameStop and like I would get like old head customers, like you know, just older guys who like their military games, and they would come in and like, yeah, man, I wanted to pick this up. And I learned the hard way that a lot of these guys don't have internet, don't care to use the internet. They just want to fucking boot up the game and play. And like, I remember, like, I got into the habit of like, whenever I see that game, I would, and even though it says it on the box, it would say internet required at the bottom. But like, a lot of people would miss that, which is fair enough. It's not like, it's not super prominent on the box.
Well, they legally have to do it, but they try to put that shit in
they
the
put that
smallest
shit
box
in,
in the corner.
like, way out of the way, so that you don't like you could miss it, right? Because just looking at the case, you kind of just see it and go, okay, that's just probably a part of like that's just like copyright stuff or what. Like you don't even pay attention to it.
Yeah,
Which is fair enough. Like I know some people are, oh, you should open your eyes, dumbass. It's like, well, you know, whatever. Like I get it. Like you gotta give people some slack.
World's a big place.
So anyway, I would tell people like, hey man, listen, just to let you know before you buy this game, this one requires internet to play. Like there's like a big day one patch you have to download to play this game, otherwise you won't be able to play. You have internet and stuff set up, and some people get offended. Like, of course I have internet, right? And I'm like, no, I just asking. I want to make sure, you know. But more often than not, people are like, what? You need internet? Why? And I'm like, it's just how they made it. You know, it's the game. The full game isn't on the disc. It's you have to download the rest of the game. And they go, why the fuck would they do that? And I go, I don't really know, but I'm just letting you know. Before I don't want you to, you know, buy this and then go home and then be upset and then have to come back. Like, you know, I'm just trying to like inform
literally
you.
Cannot play the game. Yeah,
Trying to inform you before you leave. You know, and it would be the same thing with like Division. They would come up with the Division. They would just see military dudes in New York and like, yo, I want to play this, right? And they would come to the counter to pick it up and they're like, all right, hey, just to let you know, you need internet to play this and you need a constant internet connection. This is an online only game. You could play by yourself, but you got to play by yourself online. Can't play it offline. What? That's bullshit. It's like, yeah, I get it, but you know, I'm just letting you know. Just don't shoot the messenger, right? I'm just You know, a lot of people would just not tell you anything and then let you waste your time and money. So yeah, this game is pretty much the same. And I think on the picture on the IGN article, I think it says it on the PS5 box here, the Amazon link.
See it right
it's
next
like that little black
rating,
box right there.
Yeah.
No, not that one. Yeah, internet required to install the game. Internet, and then it says it in French. Yeah. So then, whenever I see that, bro, this is not a game for me. Like I just no, I'm good. I'm just not gonna play it. And if I really want to play it, I'll get it later on sale and I'll just download the shit. At that point, like, why would I tease myself with the disc? Like, well, what does it even matter?
Again, which is people like Ubisoft and Activision. I think, tinfoil hats on. That's their plan. They want you to just they want that they want that thought to run through your head. It's like, I might as well just buy the digital game. Yes, that's what we want. While you're at it, get Ubisoft Plus. I'm just saying, you don't even have to get it. $10 a month, you get to play all our games. So
while we allow you to,
this is just
we won't tell you when.
We will take it away from
where.
you.
We'll just play. Shut up. Don't pay attention. Don't listen to these people. Just play the game. Just keep paying us. That's it. So
we got a Han Solo skin. You're good.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like this is a direct cancerous growth of modern gaming. This is just look at Ubisoft over the last 10 years and this is what's wrong with modern gaming. One of the many things that's wrong with modern gaming is just nerfing how cool characters can look, price gouging you for every little piece of content. And like I said in the beginning, I get it. I don't have access to their books. I don't know how much their expenses are. I'm pretty sure the Star Wars license is very expensive. I understand that. So I could kind of understand, but this is not this is not unlike Ubisoft, right? Every major Ubisoft game does this shit. Gold Edition, Silver Edition, Platinum Edition, Pokemon Ruby Edition. They have. You thought Pokemon was egregious with having two versions of the same game. These motherfuckers saw that and was like, yo, we could double that shit. And we could charge more for the better versions. This shit is crazy, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah, and the fact that they proudly display these things in these charts and just tell you this is what you don't get if you buy this edition, this is what you do get. The IGN article doesn't show it, but there's an actual, not graph, but it's just a comparison of what the standard edition gives you as opposed to what the Gold Ultra I have no control of my money edition gets you. And it's just I don't to have the fucking cojones to just show that and just we know you're gonna buy the 130 the $130 edition because you're an idiot. It's just I don't know. It takes a special kind of narcissist to just do that.
I mean, you know what? This is the last thing I'll say, and then we can wrap up. If you hear background noise from my end, listeners, I have noisy neighbors, so sorry, but can't really do much about that. I live in the city, so yeah. Anyway, I think this is a conspiracy theory, so brace yourself. I think Ubisoft games go on sale so fast because they can actually afford to take the loss. I think that their price gouging is so egregious that in their mind it's well, fuck it, we could sell the game for less and still make a profit. We could just charge you way more day one. Fuck it.
So you think that they literally just all right, these idiots, we're gonna get some idiots, not all. We're gonna get some idiots to get the 130, and then we'll just slash our price because the game actually costs $50 to make, or it's per unit. $50.
We can afford to sell it for this amount. But we'll just reduce it 20%, and then they'll see. I think it's like a marketing ploy where stores like Macy's or JCPenney or whatever, stores like that will have 50% off. They'll make a big deal about it, but not actually reduce the price by that much. They'll increase the base price, but then apply the sale to make it seem like it's a sale, but it's not really a sale.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah,
so I think that's what they're doing, but with their video games, and so that's why it seems so ridiculous. It's you're charging me $130, but like really the content, and some of the content is not even available yet, right? It's like 2 story packs. Like you'll get it when you get it. Like you're paying for content you don't even have yet. Like they can actually charge $80 for this content, but they're like, well, we could just charge more, and then it's just icing on the cake at that point. Like these morons, this Star Wars fucking super fans are just gonna buy it, right? They're just gonna be like, well, fuck it, I'll just buy it digitally, because digital is becoming more of a thing, right, and more of like the norm. The Ultimate Edition is digital only, and it's like, whoa. And then like,
well, I want all the content.
I want all the content. And then like anybody who's like a physical media guy or who would have preferred a hard copy, they see the Ultimate Edition digital only, go, well, fuck it, I guess I'll get it digital. I want the 2 extra skins. I want the art book or whatever. And it's like, it's so depressing that it's working, because the only reason why they're able to do this is because there's a level of success that they see. Like, we make fun of Ubisoft, but like I'm sure if I had access to their accounts and all their expenses and like how much money they're actually making, I'm pretty sure they're just fine. Like, they're doing fine because they're fucking their core user base so hard, and their core user base is so used to it and like just okay with it that they're like, yeah, we're fine. Like, they're not fine. Like, they report losses and stuff, but like, I think it's fluff. I think it's just like, we're gonna pretend like, oh yeah, we had a loss and the game didn't meet expectations, but really, if you had access to the books, like, you know, they've seen a healthy profit.
Which is funny, because if it did bomb, you wouldn't see another Assassin's Creed game. Yet they've done the same business model with, I don't know about Mirage so much, but I know Valhalla and Odyssey had the same type. They had like the crazy edition with the statue and all the...
Mirage had a deluxe edition.
Oh, okay.
And
There you go.
I think a gold edition. Maybe. But I think it was only available digital, if I recall.
Okay. So it's like, yeah, if they wouldn't have done it with 3 Assassin's Creed games straight if it was financially detrimental to them.
I think the first time they did the whole gold edition deal, from memory, I want to say Assassin's Creed Origins. That's the first time I remember it. You know, having like all these different copies, because I was working at GameStop at the time, and I remember getting like I remember having to label like the spine of the game with like a yellow tag and write deluxe on it and gold on it, because like somebody would, let's say they had like the regular edition pre-ordered, and an employee would accidentally hand them like the gold edition or some shit like that.
Yeah, they
So
okay.
Yeah.
I remember Odyssey because, again, Ubisoft doing crazy shit. Their mid-tier edition had a statue of the main character.
A very statue.
Right. And then in order to get the other half of the statue, where it shows her like plunging the dagger into some Greek soldier, you had to buy the Ultimate Edition. So like, they literally cut a statue in half, and if you wanted the whole thing, you had to buy the most expensive Ultimate Edition. And I was like, oh my
bro, it was disgusting. And like, stuff like that. And that clearly didn't work out so well for them, because they never did that again, I don't think.
I don't think Valhalla... I think Valhalla had like one statue, and that was it.
They didn't do the whole let's split the statue in half deal. And like, if you want the full thing, it's gonna cost you. Like, I think Origins was... Not Origins. Odyssey was the only one to do that. Because Origins, it was just a statue of like... Was it there a statue for Origins? There might have been. I'm not too sure.
I know the Odyssey one, because that blew my mind. That was just like so blatantly scummy.
Yeah. Yep.
Ubisoft, dog.
So
don't buy those games. Don't buy their games.
Yeah, if you could afford to.
TLDR.
If you can afford to wait, dude, like, just wait. Far Cry 6, I think, is like a $10 game now. Like, when I last left GameStop, like, I had like 40 copies of Far Cry 6 on Xbox, sealed, brand new, $8.99.
Ain't going nowhere.
Nobody wants some shits. And I don't think the games are that bad. Like, for $10, they're not bad. But like, it's not about like, it's about the principle. Like, you know. Yeah. I don't know. So, anyways, with that being said, those listening who've made it this far, thank you for listening. Hope you gleaned something of interest, education, or entertainment from our conversation. Leave a like or dislike in a comment down below. Let us know what you think about modern gaming, the price structure of modern gaming, the price structure of Ubisoft games. What are your thoughts on some of the other games coming out in 2024, Space Marine 2, Stellar Blade, etc.? And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Subscribe for more content. We do podcasts every week. We launch every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So subscribe so that you're notified when those episodes go live. Also, check out the description down below for all the articles that we reference, as well as all the social media links that we have for Logical Gamers. So there's a Twitter/X, Discord that we run, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. There's also a link for Mr. Esoteric's Twitch stream. He streams 2 to 3 times a week, and he plays a variety of games, so definitely check out his stream. Give him a follow. I'm usually in the chat. Gunner's usually in the chat. It's usually a good time.
Yep.
So I remember Esoteric playing the Stellar Blade demo, and he was dulled with that shit. He was loving that. So he's probably going to stream that when that comes out. So by the time this episode comes out, then I think Stellar Blade will be on its way out. It'll probably be the same week as Stellar Blade, I think. So yeah, with that being said, we'll catch you in the next one. See you around.
Till next time.